It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. Just acknowledge it, knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down, tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want, we just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
You heard the man they call Biz, ladies and gentlemen. It's Topic Thunder, the Internet Saloon. My name is Brooks. That's Ben. As we're pointing in the correct directions,
yes,
the soon-to-be populated with energy and conversation, the world's most dangerous chat room. We call that the Thunderdome. And again, folks, the Internet Saloon. Ben and I are going to be pouring conversation, and we hope you join in and offer what you. Absolutely. There's a lot to talk about. We had a week off for the colonizer holiday known as Thanksgiving.
Yes. But more for me to go to San Antonio and play horrible golf.
Yeah. We hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving too and enjoyed some family, some friends, some food, some wine. I'm still a little bit bloated after just so much food and just,
Thanksgiving
sodium.
is my of all the holidays. I like Thanksgiving the most because I love the meal of Thanksgiving. And although we did not have it on Thanksgiving proper this year, Adrian still hooked it up and came through on Sunday night with Thanksgiving dinner on Sunday night.
Sure. So all right. Okay. All right. So what's on your Thanksgiving table?
Okay. So I have to have my mom's stuffing. It's her recipe. There's a lot involved. There's sausages involved. It's really good. It's my mom's recipe. I have to have it. And Adrian makes this corn casserole, which is fantastic. I don't know how to describe it other than there's corn and cornmeal involved, like cornbread involved, and it's delicious. And I am a big proponent of green bean casserole. I love green bean casserole.
All right.
And then turkey, ham, whatever. The protein I'm not big on. I'm all about the sides, mashed potatoes, corn, all of it. And I like to throw it all together and then just smother it all in turkey gravy.
Okay, so I'm with you to one extent about the bird, about the protein, right? Especially back in the old days, it's really easy to dry out a turkey, right?
Sure.
The modern thermometers and gauging temperatures, all that stuff, blah blah blah. It's not like it is today. So turkey was. I enjoy it. My mom and dad did a good job of cooking it. I could take it or leave it at this point, with the lone exception of when Friendsgiving was Sunday. So you were having your meal, and Chef Rick was did 3 birds.
Oh,
3.
I bet he
birds. Deep fried 2, baked 1. And that is some of the most succulent turkey. It's so
deep fried turkey is excellent. It's really it's hard to go bad there. Yeah, ham only. I like turkey, but I could, like I said, take or leave it. We had ham, and I was fine with it.
I know people that'll do like a prime rib, or
we
a nice
did that
piece
one
of
year. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did he try to feed anyone bear? No, I was the one that fed people bear. I believe as my graduating when I graduated from X-ray school, that was my celebration. I cooked the meats of my 2 most feared combatants in the animal kingdom, bear and shark.
Yeah, why salty about being fed bear? Well, it's just another protein. People, I don't ever understand people getting weirded out because it's not normal. But it's it's bear. I'm sure it's like bison or any other beef-esque protein. It can't be that wildly different.
I guess this is a whole other show about the ethics of eating meat in the first place. And I'll even say it's getting tough for me to kind of justify I gotta have meat every day. just the stories that we've covered on our show, just knowing what they go through and the way they're treated, the people that work in those.
I can't think about that shit, Brooks. I gotta eat it.
Man, that's where I am now. It's not necessarily at every little spoon or forkful. I'm thinking of a baby pig that's getting a steel
No,
rod
you're
through its head.
ruining it.
Oh, did I just
Ruining
do
it.
that?
No.
Oh shit! Sorry. Happy Thanksgiving. Let's have a drink to wash all of that down. Why don't we? We're just going to celebrate and honor the Topo Chico brand of hard seltzer today because it's about all I can pretty much handle at this point after all the calories over the last 6 or so. That we'll be eventually having again. Again, the holiday not necessarily celebrating pilgrims, but people, friends, family. Yes. So why
Yeah,
don't
I do
we,
remember. My wife does point out, well, we were vegan for an entire year. We didn't eat meat for a minute, but and there are awesome alternatives. But I like meat. I like eating protein, meaty protein.
This is the tangy lemon lime offering from the Topo Chico hard seltzer brand. Not too shabby.
It's hard to fuck up a seltzer at this point.
It kind of is. Although some of the flavors can be a little too crisp, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I don't want something that's gonna suck my face in being too sour. But yeah, I think we should just kind of move on. We haven't talked for like a whole 2 weeks, which the way things are going now, lengthy in this 70,000 different stories, and that's what we do here on the very creatively named segment Headlines. Cover the headlines. Starting with this doozy, we've been trying to track this story as it now has twisted and turned in so many different directions. But the protests are still continuing in Iran, we're coming up on almost now, Ben, 4 months. And the lethality of the pushback from the government is increasing, and the protesters are not letting up. And this includes now the World Cup team, as the World Cup is going on, and the questionable amenities that are in Qatar. This is from the dreaded CNN, but it's kind of everywhere, and CNN makes it really easy to read. The families of Iran's World Cup soccer team have been threatened with imprisonment and torture if the players fail to behave ahead of the match against USA on Tuesday, a source revealed in a security. Following the refusal of Iranian players to sing the nation's national anthem in their opening match on with England on November 21st, the source said the players were called to a meeting with the members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The source said they were told their families would face violence and torture if they did not sing the national anthem or if they joined in any political protest against the Tehran regime.
I mean, that's not surprising. There's... But I wasn't. I did think it was interesting that the players didn't sing the national anthem. I think that's pretty ballsy for them to do that, knowing that they're probably going to have to face somebody to that. They're going to answer for that to somebody, somebody important. A conversation is going to be had if it hasn't been had.
Conversation.
Yeah,
yes.
And I did know that there was some fans there as well that had jerseys with that young lady's name emblazoned on the jersey,
Masha Amini.
Yeah, to kind of in protest, or at least acknowledging her and her situation, during the national anthem and during the soccer game.
CJ Mino brings up taking a knee for the team of Iran. Not singing the national anthem at the World Cup is the same, if not worse, especially for an authoritarian, totalitarian religious state. Not singing that country's national anthem. It might just be worse than taking a knee during the national anthem for them. In a tit for tat, which is really interesting, U.S. Soccer Federation kind of agitated the Iranians.
Yeah,
did you hear about this?
With the flag?
The flag where they posted the Iranian flag, red, white, and green, right? With the Islamic regime's symbol in the center of it. And the United Soccer Federation, once everybody knew, I guess, what Group B's groupings were, and the matchings, like where they were putting like this country and their flag versus this country and their flag, they put the Iranian flag without the regime's symbol in it, which, you know,
I saw it got kind of crazy where like the Iranians, I'm sorry, I'm saying that I'm still learning it and making my brain understand it. They were like calling for the United States to be removed from the World Cup over it. Like they were really, really salty about it. So whatever psychological games that were meant to be played there definitely got through. And the Trojan horse, if you will, definitely got through the defenses there, and some psychological warfare definitely happened.
There's some so jumping back really which I, you know, okay, that poking the bear, or at least like you said, psychological warfare of this regime has been in power for 40 years now, and experts and I want to get to this sentence here. Protests referred to by experts as the most significant since the establishment of the clerical rule following the 1979 Iranian Revolution have rocked Iran in most recent months and threatened the country's regime. Those are powerful words.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen with the increase in the violence and the absolute suffocation of information coming out, especially moment-to-moment information, you know.
Now, I don't know if this is on the radar, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if this is a story that you already have lined up, but I did read, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, because the source was sketchy at best. But there was a story that, or some Twitter postings about an American citizen in Iran who was shot for having honked his car horn in celebration of the United States, or more for Iran being eliminated from the World Cup. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but that doesn't sound out of the realm of possibility given what we know about how that regime has reacted to people stepping on the line.
I think I've seen that same thing. I haven't seen it reported widely. And I hit all the sites today, and we're going to talk about what I found and what I didn't find on those sites. But I didn't see any confirmation of that. I did also see that there were celebrations after the U.S. won.
Mm-hmm.
And just naturally, right? Like, you know, whatever you think's going on here, which is awful and terrible in some parts, just does not compare to what's going on over there. And what you're seeing is a group of people, a nation of people, just to every last one of them. Not extremist groups with a centrist that couldn't be bothered with really paying attention to both sides and going, hey, wait a minute. Right? Every last person in Iran is feeling this. Right? And I don't know if Biz is on. I know Biz has family over there. I know our personal friend, his name is Mehdi. He has a mom and sister over there. And I don't know if I told you the story, but like we hung out with him and he was telling us like he gets messages from his mom and his sister now maybe every 2 days through WhatsApp, just because how bad the internet is. Mm-hmm. So he just imagine knowing what's going on over there, knowing your mom and your sister, females, probably can't get around. Like what, you're either locked yourself up and try to be safe, or you're out there in the streets protesting.
Yeah, you're doing one of those two things. Yeah.
And yeah, it's the youth, as Gigi brings up, it's the youth that are driving this, and it's girls, it's women, young women.
Be interesting to see what, you know. Oops, like you said, this is what 4 months now. You know, and more information, it seems to be trickling out, you know, as we go here, and so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the next few months, because things are seeming to turn against the regime there, and in a big way, and on a lot of different stages.
A lot of different stages, culminating with the most important sports event in the world.
Mm-hmm. That really was a pretty significant moment through sports, to have the United States play Iran and having to win in order to get through to the round of 16. That you couldn't have played that out any better, as far as like if you were going to script how to make it go. And you know, I watched probably the last 15 to 20 minutes of the game. And the last 4 minutes was I'm not a fan of the United States, so I don't really have that sort of civic pride that you would expect. And I hate soccer. But I found myself for 4 minutes at least enthralled with, are we going to give this away? Because like, what a political story it would be if Iran were to have scored a late goal, because all Iran had to do was tie the United States and it would have knocked the United States out. And that would have been, make no mistake, a huge political moment for the regime in Iran to be able to say, I mean, the biggest soccer match in the history of the country was the last time Iran beat the United States at the World Cup. So to have it be in this situation, man, it couldn't have been bigger. And so I felt like watching it, like I could understand the players' pressure, because it's just like, just get to the end of the clock, just run the goddamn timeout, because you could just feel it. And there was a moment there with like 2 minutes left. There was a shot on goal where it was a definite possibility, and you're just sitting there going, man, what a political fucking nightmare it would have been for Iran to be able to use that back home for like to try to energize people. Like, look, we beat the United States in soccer, so we are a big deal. I don't know how that would have played out, but it wouldn't have played out well.
The best correlation would have been the United States beating Russia in the 1980 Olympics for the gold medal.
There you go.
That's it. Like you had the underdog, you had the one that was supposed to lose. Like, yeah, a bunch of try-hard college kids playing against hardened, superior veterans of professional leagues and like adult men playing kids. Oh yeah, and all of these world-class players, and the USA pulled that off. That's what that would have been for the regime, not for the Iranian people, right? It was the miracle on ice, and it kind of broke Russia because within the same decade, the USSR, communism falls, the Berlin Wall falls, Russia tear down this wall, blah 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 blah, Mr. Gorbachev. And off we go to the United States wins like the global chess game in that regard. Not that the same things were at stake, but the boost, like you said, man, to the regime, right? But let's also, there's something going on right in the air, because there's protests in China that you've never saw before, and there are a lot of protests in China right now.
There are, and this is interesting to me, and it is interesting to see how the American media is playing these protests in China, because it's like the protests are against very strict COVID restrictions. There is a zero COVID policy in China, and isn't that ultimately the right way to handle COVID? Although the American media is now playing it in a different way. They're playing it as, look at this totalitarian government imposing way too strong of restrictions on their people. But 2 summers ago, those same news organizations were advocating for lockdown. So when this story, to me, the Chinese protests are exposing the media, and I can understand why there are people that are skeptical of the media, because I'm watching it and I'm going, wait a minute, why are you reporting on these Chinese protests and these lockdowns in over COVID in China as if they're a bad thing, when this is exactly what we were asking for and probably could have saved hundreds of thousands of lives had we taken it as seriously as China is taking it at this point. So but on the other hand, I understand why the people want to be unlocked down at this point.
Well, I think it's important to understand what that means, zero COVID, right? So what that means is if you live in a high-rise apartment building and there's 4,500 apartments, right? That means if one person tests positive in that building, you can't go anywhere, period. End of story, until everybody tests negative. Now, there are ways to have that type of testing methodology where everybody gets tested, and we have the technology. The rapid tests take what, 15 minutes, and if you're already contagious with the virus, you'll probably have the antigens. So you'll on those rapids, and I could appreciate after 3 years of being told like that level of lockdown, like when we didn't have vaccines or treatments or had an idea of how to combat it with any form of traditional medicine. Sure, I get that. Yes, there should have been much more stringent lockdowns. Although for what happened here in this country at that time, that was as close to lockdown as you could probably get, because the United States wasn't going to put troops on the streets in front of buildings and lock down like the Cook County wasn't going to be locked down. Right. And that's what's happening. Like entire states or provinces in China. So just think California locked down, Illinois locked down, New York, Nevada, Alabama, nothing moves in or out of that state. That's the level of the zero COVID. And I can see where, again, now when we have some treatments and ideas of what to do about it, there should be some rethinking of that. So when you already have an authoritative regime that does what it just forces its will upon the people like that, and I think Gigi brought it up too, that they could be looking at what's going on in Iran and being going, you know what, this is just the excuse, this is just the thing that like brought us to the boiling point and boil over, right? Was that like 3 years of this? Yeah, we got to do something about this.
Yeah, no, I get it. And again, I don't necessarily, I see both sides of the argument, and I think you're probably right. It's probably not necessary for that level of lockdown at this point because of the technology or the medical technology and the medical advances in our knowledge of how to treat it and how to keep it from being as deadly as it was at the beginning before we had, like said, vaccines and things like that. So, but it is interesting the way that the American media is very different in their tone when it comes to, now it's very totalitarian, and the same talking heads that were 2 years ago yelling at conservatives that were not wanting to stay home are, it's just interesting. And you can understand how some people look at mainstream media and see the hypocrisy, because there is some. There definitely is.
I'll grant you that, absolutely, but because you also granted the exception that what we do have, a better understanding and a better way of possibly doing it. It's just China is not giving up their opportunity to flex like that, right? And that's just kind of the bottom line. Mm-hmm. And that's probably what the people are protesting. But yes, I'm sure we're probably going to see something similar happen in Russia sooner than later. And wow, go figure. Why would anything like that be happening in those three particular countries? Right. Whoa, no. But while we talk and laugh about other countries and have a good time discussing and dissecting their politics, we have to pay attention to our own. We will always let everybody know that the show is left leaning. Ben will openly admit to being more left leaning than I am, but I think we're happy and would be derelict in our duty if we didn't call out the absolute bullshit that is this coming from the Biden administration. I think we talked about this almost 2 months ago, when the first possibility of a rail strike was looming. The disruptions to not only commuter traffic, but the supply chain. Both sides went into arbitration. The government got involved, which at some point it probably should give a national interest, but they have now gone way too far. And in a very undemocratic and in a very unblue move, the Biden administration is forcing a deal with the railway union. And it does have the sniff of what Reagan did to the air traffic controllers way back in the 80s. Air traffic controllers were in a union, and they were going to strike against their conditions, basically saying it's not safe for us to be staring at these screens and this level of stress for these 12 or 16 hours. Mistakes are going to happen. And it's not like it's even in medicine where a doctor's, hi Fiona, where a doctor's like up for 12 or 16 hours and makes a mistake on one patient.
Right.
It's a plane of 200, 300 people that are in
Yeah.
flames rolling down a runway, right?
Right.
So he broke the union, made all of the air traffic controllers federal employees, and then fired all of them because he could, as president of the United States. Go Ronald Reagan, free market economist, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And now we're kind of seeing something, at least a flex of presidential power and government power on our railway workers, who, if you just kind of read through the story a little bit, what they're asking for simply seems humane.
Of course it is.
They're asking for a better work environment, a safer work environment, appropriate time off. They didn't have more than 10 days of sick time / PTO.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
What? Well, first of all, shame on you, railway union, for letting this get to this point, right? Let's not absolve you of anything, but also for the federal government to come in and, in a measure passed by the House, 290 to 137. Have you ever, in the last 6 years, seen any piece of legislation pass by that wide a margin?
No.
That's a lot of normally competing interests and different ideologies going, yep, sure, right. I'm a fan of government when it needs to be government to help people, but I'm also a fan of if it takes a strike to get proper wages, proper time off. That's what people literally died for 130 years ago.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, man, because we really cannot afford to have a rail strike given the current situations with supply chain and inflation and supply and demand, all of those things. So
just to give some credence to that, and I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah.
Business groups, including U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the American Farm Bureau Federation, have warned that halting rail service would cause a devastating $2 billion per day hit to the economy. I just wanted to give you some ammo to kind of like go on that.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I'm as pro labor, I think, as you could possibly get, but I also have to understand there's context to everything. But what's amazing to me and what I don't understand is it's really about the big sticking point at this point is the paid sick leave. I don't understand why that's even a conversation, and how they had a second vote that was specific to that would add 7 days of paid sick leave per year for rail workers, and that was a vote of 221 to 207, as Republicans overwhelmingly opposed this idea. And that's where you want to talk about the differences in the two parties. Make no mistake, when given the opportunity to say, do they care about the labor, the average U.S. citizen, their average constituent, over their big corporation, their big money constituents and big money friends, it's 207 of them told you they don't think paid sick leave is something that everyone should have. And like, it just doesn't compute to me that what is your argument against it? What is the argument against? Give me a solid argument other than I just don't want to pay it. I'm sorry, we're at a point in society where that's no longer an acceptable reason. That it's going to cost the company some extra money. I don't care. We're past that. You make enough. You make enough to give people paid goddamn sick leave. We're talking about 7 days a year.
Right.
If you can't run your business efficiently by having people miss 7 days a year and paying them for that time off, like, you don't understand why that you have to allow people to stay home when they're sick. There's this weird mentality that people have that you have to come to work sick. What happens is you get everyone else at work sick. And so it spreads around, and then now you don't have one or two employees out, you have dozens of employees out. When if you just don't feel good and you're not feeling up to it, to be able to pick up that phone and go, you know what? I'm going to use one of my 7 days today. It's better for everybody that I stay home. That's the responsible thing to do as an employee. But you can't do that if you're going to
be punished for it.
Yes.
It is the responsible thing to do, and it is the efficient thing to do. Like you were saying, as a business, you don't have the foresight to realize what you just said. One gets 2 sick, that get 4 sick, that get 8 sick, that get 16 sick, that get 32, because that's how we've learned quite a bit about, especially airborne viruses over the last couple of years. And it's not even including the ones that like are from touch or anything else, right? So it is unimaginable that those things aren't universal. Let me ask you this, Ben. Would you be in favor, and we can expand this conversation and maybe bring it to a different another show, but would you be in favor of nationalizing these railways?
Oh, I'm always in favor of taking essential things to society and nationalizing them over privatizing them. There are some things that just are too big and too important to be privatized. The railways absolutely should be one of them. I mean, imagine if we nationalized railways and then invested in rails. We talked about this before. High-speed rail is something that we are way behind on for no good reason other than it's not in our national interests because private companies own the railways and they don't want to do it.
Well, they tell us that it's not in our interest, right? But everybody, if you've tried to travel lately, especially if you're trying to pay airfare, it's insane to travel somewhere. So everybody gets up in arms about airfare. We can't. Oh my God, a trip to Disney just to even get there is blah blah blah. Or I can't fly. We can't go to Europe. Blah blah blah. You want to visit the Grand Canyon and you want to take a train from Chicago to get to the Grand Canyon, a high-speed rail could probably get you there in about 6 hours. Because that thing's screaming 200 miles an hour with very few stops across the country.
I mean, we just drove to San Antonio from Lubbock. It's about a 5.5 hour, almost 6 hour drive from Lubbock to San Antonio, right?
With all those kids, bless you.
Right? Yeah, not fun. I was kidding, but I was like, man, I wish someone would invent a transporter where you literally just, take your family, you're broken up into particles, and they throw you through the air, and you are in San Antonio in minutes.
Now you're talking about my Star Trek utopian paradise that I aspire to.
Yes,
but
short of the physically impossible, what is physically possible would be to put in high-speed rails that would connect major cities throughout the United States. There is enough open land, certainly in Texas, to institute a high-speed rail system that would connect West Texas to Southern Texas to Central Texas to East Texas,
the East Coast to the West Coast
to everything, to be able to go from Phoenix, Arizona to New York in 6 hours on a rail system is possible.
New jobs,
there are other countries
new
that are doing it.
Oh yeah, other countries have. China's like balls deep into this whole thing, right? This is nothing new to our European friends, where I think it was already mentioned, but like absolutely, they hop in a train and there they go. You go to country to country to country, and it's fast, safe.
I saw a video today. I don't know how fucking real it is, but it's on the internet, so it's got to be real on some level.
Got to be real.
But I believe it was in Japan, they have this high speed, basically school bus system, where this high speed rail literally like pulls up to the house, to the apartment, and like pulls into the apartment. So like the video had like parents waiting on their couch with their kids, and this like high speed rail pulls into the goddamn living room, and the kid jumps in the fucking thing, and it just keeps moving. It's like a school bus, but it's all connected to the school system, and it just drops these kids off at school and then drops them off literally inside their house.
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like something from that I think it's that Saudi Arabian venture to make that like city,
maybe,
that, like right, just like create like something like reverse engineering a city and building one from scratch with modern technology isn't a bad idea,
right?
Because at this point we're just kind of putting band-aids on a bleeding wound in a lot of cases. Just ask the water quality in Flint, Michigan, and everywhere else that's not being reported. Everywhere. But
yes,
we
nationalize. To go back and answer your question, nationalize the railways, nationalize big oil and gas.
Energy, period.
Energy, period. Energy should be free, and the collective should own the right, the quote unquote mineral rights. What's in the ground is everybody's. Not one family's, because their ancestors 4 decades, 5 decades, 7 decades, 100 years ago settled on that land, so they own anything that comes out of the ground. Like that, I've never understood how we allowed that to be a thing from the beginning. Like, oh yeah, not only do you own the land there, but you also own everything under the land. Like you have the rights to all of that, so that when we need to drill that stuff out of there, we've got to pay you. Like, what? Like, how do you own what's in the ground? It was there before you fucking got there. Like, how do you claim ownership over land? That's never made sense to me. And so, but that's how those are extreme ideas, right? Like that's some Venezuela type shit. When
national interest, I guess that's we could have a conversation on some future show about the merits and I guess follies of nationalizing infrastructure like that. But I think you and I can settle all of these problems for the world if they would just listen. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, hey, check us out, world. Hey, if Elon Musk can get a plan to solve world hunger from the UN, Ben and I are more than happy to submit our ideas to solve all of the world's problems. And one of those ideas is a 4-day work week. And Ben, I know you're a big proponent of that. I don't know who else is, because this isn't just like you getting reduced hours at work or working extra hours at work. So you're not stepping down from 5 8-hour days to do 4 10s. No, you're just going to do 32 hours. You're going to do 4 8-hour shifts, but you're going to be paid like you're working 40. This is being widely adopted now across not necessarily ginormous corporations in the UK, but enough that it will cause momentum forward. And if we scroll all the way down, I think they get to basically what it boils down to. In September, 88% of these companies in a survey that had offered the 4-day work week at the middle of the trial said things were working well for business at the stage of the trial. 95% of the companies surveyed said productivity had either stayed the same or improved since introduction. So all right there, that should just eliminate the idea that we're going to lose money.
It has been studied over and over and over and over again, Brooks. And every single study, no matter where it's done in the world, the study always comes out the same. Productivity not just stays the same, it typically improves with a 4-day work week. This is not rocket science. This is not something that's just a weird idea by some fucking liberal asshole. This is stuff that has been implemented, studied. The long-term effects of it have been studied, and everything comes out positive. There is almost no downside to moving to a 4-day work week. This is something that my dealership has actually discussed not that long ago, is moving the sales staff to a 4-day work week with and because it allows you to have those 3 days that you kind of reset, and then you come back and you have more energy, you're more into what you're doing because you've had more time outside of work. It's this crazy idea that you mentioned Elon Musk. Elon Musk is doing the opposite, right? And because he's going with this old school model of get in there and work hard and 84-hour work week.
It's very much the Japanese kind of model. Like basically you work yourself to death.
Right. Those companies in Japan, they have nets surrounding all of their tall buildings because they have employees jumping off the fucking buildings because they're so overstressed and overworked that they don't know what else to do, so they just go up to the top fucking floor of the building and throw themselves fucking off of it. I mean, that's a legitimate thing that happens in Japanese companies, that they have to fucking keep people from jumping off the fucking building. And my buddy Ted is like defending it, and like it's this weird mentality of like, well, they're just asking you to work harder, and it's like, but you shouldn't have to. It's 2022.
You saw it. You liked it on my. I took a selfie with a goddamn robot today, okay? And this robot's job is going to be delivering linens and other supplies around the hospital that I work at. And it was scary and cool and a revelation all at the same time, because if that thing can tirelessly run around and do the things that, like, I don't know, hurt, drain, destroy other people, human beings that shouldn't lift all that stuff, I'm all for it. Do I want those people to lose their jobs? No, I think those people should be given education. Well, okay, so now this is getting back to when the robots do come to replace us, there should be
UBI. Well, that's another discussion, but yeah,
a government initiative to train and retrain all of those people who would lose their jobs to these robots who are coming to better serve society and make themselves more whole individuals, whatever they want to do. You should just, hey, you know what? I always wanted to be a dry cleaner. Cool. Here's all you need to know. Here's all the chemicals. This is great. Again, utopian society, right? But back to the story here. Proponents of the 4-day work week say that the 5-day pattern is a hangover from an earlier economic age. They argue that the 4-day work week would drive companies to improve their productivity, meaning they can create the same output using fewer hours. For some early adopters of the policy, it's also proven useful as a way of attracting and retaining employees. Now, that's a big deal right now. Is okay, attracting employees is one thing. Retaining employees is a whole nother story. Getting somebody in through the door because you've got a good brand and the name is out there and you appear on lists and or what have you is great. But once people get inside and they're not sold on the brand and they're not like, all right, you know what, this is where I'm gonna make my career.
It's been long said, and I believe this: people don't quit jobs; they quit management.
It's true.
They don't. People signed up for the job. They know what the job is, and that's not that. They don't quit because they don't want to do the job. They don't want to do the job for the people that are managing. They don't like the style of management that places use. That's really what it comes down to. When an employee quits and you're a manager, you have to ask yourself. You have to say to yourself, "I failed that person." right? You failed them on some level where they didn't feel loyal enough to you or want or have
Didn't
the
believe in your
passion.
vision.
Right. They didn't have the passion the same way that you do. Like that for me in management, that was something that took me a long time to realize. People don't respect the hard ass, look over your shoulder, micromanage kind of shit that doesn't work anymore for people. And you have to treat them as an equal and respect them as a person. And that's hard for people from the old school type of management, because old school management is they aren't equal, right? They're under you. That's why you're the manager and they're the employee. They're under you, is because there is a hierarchy. But it's 2022 and people aren't going for that anymore. And like you said, it speaks to the places with good management keep people, places with shitty management lose people. It's that simple.
It really is. If management's not there to support and give the employee what they need to successfully complete the job and the autonomy, once the management knows that person can do the job, to just go do your job. Like, if you mess up, I'm here for you. We'll get through it. Whatever has got to happen has got to happen. If whatever. But yeah, I think it's really important. And we've all had jobs where we've had bad managers, bad bosses. We've all had jobs where we've had great ones. Mm-hmm. And you will run through brick walls for a great boss. Yep. You will work extra. You'll come in on your day off. You'll do all those things because you believe in that person, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you lose that, man, it's ugly. What am I doing? His shield. Dad came over for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we saw Dad F. and Brooks. If you haven't seen it, check out Brooks's Facebook page for Dad F. and Brooks looking like Captain America.
Yeah, and wielding Molinar, which is an impressive feat for somebody.
As we know, it's limited who could even do such a thing.
It very much is. We've parked on a lot of stories, and I like that. I like getting out like a long form conversation and kind of those bites. But I think we're going to start going pew 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 to these next ones. In a story that I legitimately had trouble finding other variants of. I have to bring up another story from the dreaded CNN. And hey, if you didn't know, this is still going on. The House committee that's been investigating Donald Trump has finally gotten his tax returns from the IRS. Folks, this has been way more of a battle than it ever should have been.
Right?
To get.
I can't believe we're here. Like, we're still dealing with this shit.
And this is personal and professional. His corporate interests tax returns too, so they will know what debts
whatever he's been hiding, because clearly he has done every possible thing you could think of to keep the government from getting these tax returns. There's a reason why. It's not because he's shy
or under audit, which the CNN article very succinctly tells at the bottom. It's like that like you are allowed to release your tax returns under audit. There is nothing that the IRS says or does or anything legal in the proceedings that prevents you from doing so. It's always a personal choice.
And no one's going to be surprised when it inevitably comes out that he's been fudging his fucking taxes returns and fudging what his properties are worth. Like, there's already investigations and suits, and there are people waiting to charge him with fucking crimes when it comes to different levels of fraud based on what is in these tax returns. Like this, there's the reason he fought so hard about it is because he knows it fucks him so hard for people to know what a fraud he actually is.
Yeah, I think Trump even said that. Like Courtney brought it up. He said it's the most complicated tax return of all time. Yeah, that kind of screams, I don't know, money laundering scheme. I don't know. Call me crazy. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I've also been following the story.
Meanwhile, he's having dinner with fucking Nick Fuentes.
Holy shit.
Who is like a super piece of shit.
Super Nazi piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen Miller's best friend kind of Nazi piece of shit. Yeah. And meanwhile, he leads DeSantis by 15 points in early polling.
It just goes to show you who you.
That's the best case scenario, though, Brooks.
The best case scenario is that they beat each other up so much in leading up to the primary that one of them, and I assume it will be Trump, ejects from the Republican Party, starts a third party, divides that vote, and whoever the Democrat is, because apparently there was a quote from Biden today that he's not entirely sure about running in 24, which he shouldn't.
Agreed. Yes.
Which causes a really interesting conversation is who on the Democratic side could be that person.
A vacuum.
There is kind of a vacuum. They do have kind of 2 years to figure it out. It helps that there does seem to be a divide in the Republican Party coming. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that tracks in their algorithm or calculation as to who they're, but there is no superstar. There is no Barack Obama who gave a speech 4 years prior in a convention that everybody said, wow, in 4 years, that guy is going to be our guy. There's nobody like that. There's nobody in the bullpen.
The idea that Nick Fuentes is having dinner with a potential presidential candidate
right
in 2022 is mind-boggling. If you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, do a slight bit of research. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole because he's pretty fucking messed up. But like, he's been following Kanye West around, and they've been kind of teaming up together on this whole they thing that Kanye West has been on, where he refuses to name names but likes to play more in the they, and he keeps saying they in reference to Jewish people without calling out people. And I hate Tim Pool. Like, Tim Pool is one of the most vile pieces of shit in internet radio and podcasting. But he was right. Like, to call them out and say, like, who are you talking about? Let's talk about the names. Let's name names of who you're talking about. Like, that's a different discussion. That's a discussion that I think a lot of people could get behind, because they're, if you name names, people want to hear names named. But when you play in this fucking they, well, those that are in power, it's like, but when you say it like that, you make it sound like it's an entire race of people, rather than some very powerful people that happen to be of that race.
Right.
And it's amazing that we're at the place where he can be having dinner with him, and that person can be leading polls by 15%. I mean, what is going on?
I mean, Kanye is clearly throwing out some big dog whistles, and Nick Fuentes is really, really sadly manipulating a mentally ill person who has a much bigger platform, regardless of whatever you think about Kanye, than he does. So he's literally, talk about scum. He's grifting on Kanye's obvious mental illness. And it basically got him an audience with Trump.
Yep.
Basically.
I know we're trying to rapid fire through these.
We are. We could park on a lot of this stuff. Hey, we should all be worried. And we are already talking about nationalizing things. We didn't even mention water. Holy shit.
Oh, yes. Neil deGrasse Tyson's been on this this idea for a long time. Like, there will be major wars waged over water in the next coming decades. It may not be in our lifetime, but our children's lifetime, there is going to be major conflicts in the world over water. And what was funny is I watched a video recently where they were talking about why can't we just take the salt out of the ocean and use that water? And Neil deGrasse Tyson pointed out the only reason that they don't do it is because it's actually cheaper to bottle this shit in Fiji and ship it all over the world than it is to desalinify the ocean water. Once we get to a point where it's no longer cheaper to bottle it in these weird foreign countries and ship it all over the world, Once that becomes no longer the cheapest way to do it, then we'll invest in the technology. But when you privatize water, I mean, fucking Dasani, they
Dasani,
are
Nestle, holy
yes,
shit.
they are a major perpetrator in owning the places where water is scarce.
Fresh water.
Fresh water, they are all over owning that property, privatizing it and monetizing it, and we are on a collision course with disaster.
Speaking of future conflicts, right? Hint, hint. A lot of the conflict and global politics in Africa have nothing to do with oil, diamonds, anything, iron, uranium,
Nope.
underground aquifers.
Yep.
And you might say, be like, hey, wasn't that the plot of a James Bond? It was. Guess what they were trying to tell you by writing that into the plot? It is not an imagined sci-fi, sexy spy thriller movie plot.
Suddenly, you're going to see the United States and England and some of these countries looking at these African dictators and saying, "Oh man, we got to go in there and remove this guy." Yeah, we need to freedom this African nation who just so happens to be sitting on an aquifer that we could really, really use. Yeah, it's the same shit that we know what's going to happen because we saw it happen with oil in Central America and Southern America.
The world has seen it happen with not only oil but with salt,
spices. Too. Yes,
spices. Exactly. It's all, the countries have gone to war over salt.
Yeah.
Think about that for 1 second. Think about how plentiful salt is, and think about countries waging wars for decades over it.
Yep.
This harkens back to a time when that was the only way to preserve meat. Which, okay, you can understand how important that was a long time ago, but just think. Just think.
The water thing is a huge, huge, huge deal. Cannot underplay that enough.
So this is from our friends at The Guardian. Foreign investment firms, private equity, and pension funds own more than 70% of the water industry in England, according to research by The Guardian. A complex web of ownership revealed as the public and some politicians increasingly call for the industry to be held to account for sewage dumping, leaks, and water shortages. 6 water companies are under investigation for potentially illegal activities as pressure grows on the industry to put more money into replacing and restoring crumbling infrastructure to protect both the environment and public health. More than 3 decades after the sector was sold off with a promise to the public that they would become individual small shareholders or H2 owners. That sounds really good, right? Coming out of a politician's mouth, that sounds really good. You feel empowered, right? Yeah. Control of the water industry has become dominated by overseas investment vehicles, the super rich, and companies and tax havens and pension fund investors. The ownership structure is such that transparency and accountability are limited, according to Dr. Kate Bayliss, a research associate with the Department of Economics at SOAS University in London.
Brooks, what could go wrong if transparency and accountability are limited, particularly when it comes to like a resource that is really important for, like, all people? Wouldn't you want, like,
facet of life?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be important to have, if you were going to have 2 things, wouldn't transparency and accountability be like 1 and 1A?
You'd want to make sure that the water was clean that you were drinking and that it was there for essential services. I don't know, like sewage, like
I'm not crazy.
Hospitals that use a ton of water and just procedures and just the general operation of society. Being able to go, you know what? I need some water. It's right here. It only cost me a couple of bucks at the store. And like I think Gigi said, not some sort of weird fucked up Mad Max situation where, or a reverse water world. Yes, I said it before. Yes. Reverse water world situation where we're not scrambling for land, but we're scrambling for clean water. It's going to happen. But the privatization of water is never a good thing. And there's already a problem with that in Arizona. And we might take a look at that next week. because they have droughts out there, and a lot of their water got sold off to a country called Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
Is that a good thing?
I've heard of
Are
them.
are they nice people?
I've heard of them.
They sound lovely. Hey, and there's never a good time to bring up the show's Ellie, but we're gonna do it. Because San Francisco will allow police to deploy robots that kill.
This is so
Hit
bad.
that point, ladies and
Such a
gentlemen.
bad idea.
We've hit that point in our society where we've given the trust of taking a human life over to a robot.
Although the more I think about it, this might be safer. I mean, if they employ, remember we were talking about LiDAR last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they had some sort of technology like LiDAR where the robot could recognize the situation, right? And analyze the situation and take the emotions out of police interaction, isn't that probably better?
Now, I hung out with a robot today.
Right?
The robot had handlers, and I asked because the robot entered the elevator and was looking right at me, came up, stopped maybe 3 feet from me because it had some sensors, right? But it was enough to go, this is really weird.
Yeah.
And it stopped, saw me, turned around, and then just waited for the elevator. And that's what I said to the handlers, because I don't know what else to call them, because
right.
Fuck if I know this. They could, for all intents and purposes, Moxie was the name of the robot. Moxie was basically this ginormous wild like ape, right? That like had a bunch of people around, but that's not gonna help if Moxie decides to lose its shit inside that small ass elevator in a hospital.
Sure.
Right.
But it's less likely that a robot is going to just lose its shit.
Well, okay, so in even the first sentence of the article, Ben, they echo your point. Supervisors in San Francisco voted Tuesday to give the city police the ability to use potentially lethal remote control robots in emergency situations, following an emotionally charged debate that reflected the divisions on the politically liberal board over support for law enforcement. So not only was that politically and emotionally charged, but like you were saying, these situations where lethal force is often an emotionally charged situation.
Right.
There are limits. I've seen RoboCop too. Holy shit. Don't ever go anywhere near a big vat of nuclear waste.
No.
Don't do it. Don't listen to Mike Singletary. Don't do it. You can't do it. The San Francisco Police Department said it does not have pre-armed robots and has no plans to arm robots with guns. But the department could deploy robots equipped with explosive charges to, quote, contact, incapacitate, or disorient violent, armed, or dangerous suspects when lives are at stake. Now, that sounds like a good idea. Like if you can get some robot to kind of creep in somewhere and drop a flashbang on somebody who's holding people hostage, and then SWAT comes in and they don't have to deal with seeing that, and they can rush in and
love that idea. If the problem is that the police would also use it likely to break up protests that they don't agree with.
And let's also just consider the fact that there's already a disproportionate use of force against people of color by law enforcement.
Right.
And if you are able to take the danger, what did Dad F and Brooks asking about grenades?
Grenades, yeah.
He just wants to go there. I like it. You're taking the element of danger away from using lethal force against people you might not like or think belong alive.
Right. Because this is still, there is still a human behind this robot, and that's they're not just turning fucking violent robots loose to just make decisions on their own. You know what I mean? Like there's a human that's controlling this robot into a situation, which I can see a value, like you said, in a hostage situation, something along those lines. Where a human is, there's no reason to put a human in that danger when you could have a robot go in and set off some sort of charge that would, a flashbang that would incapacitate somebody to allow, SWAT to jump in and take a guy down or something. So, man, I'm torn on this one. Like
That's
initially,
tough, right?
the headline is very scary, right? But then as you break it down, it's like it's not that terrible of an idea to take the emotions and the human emotion out of some police interaction. I think it's not a terrible idea.
I mean, in my head, my first thought was like, well, what if they had something the size of R2D2 came around and just like, shock? Like I think Ryan Hansen brought up like lethal shocks, use of like just some kind of taser like thing. But what if you had something that was like the size of a mouse, and the only thing that thing was meant to do was like scurry into a room and just explode into like a flat, like it's just a flashbang that's like it just poof. And in come the human element to help. Like, okay, I'm down with that. But the potential uses for evil, pure evil,
right?
We need to walk the line.
On one hand, I want robots to interact more than police officers in some situations, but I don't trust police officers to use that technology properly. I still don't trust them to use that technology. You give police officers new technology, they will definitely use it for fucked up purposes.
Absolutely. And we a couple weeks back, we were just watching robots do parkour and flips and rolls. And it's
remember, we were fucking frightened. Yeah, exactly.
Where these things are going. It's like a real genius. If you remember that 80s movie, like a bunch of do-gooders are going to get their cool tech hijacked for some nefarious purposes.
Right.
So I think we're going to speed through this. We're going to speed through this because we need to at least acknowledge the longest running show on Broadway, world famous Phantom of the Opera. And the only reason I say this because you're like, oh my God, you've never mentioned opera before. I didn't know you were a fan, Brooks. I'm really not. Although I can honestly say I've never really given it that much of a shot before. It sounds cool. It sounds great. Live performances are always good. This show has been running, Ben, for 35 years.
That's incredible.
It's it has shown almost 14,000 performances, 13,981. Right?
That's
Where's
incredible.
the bingo game? Yeah, we went through. Yeah, we're spraying to all fields here, Dad F and Brooks. Just imagine one movie staying in the theaters for 35 years.
That is incredible.
That's what we're talking about here. And live performances. Like people who appeared on the first show of Phantom of the Opera might be dead right now.
Yeah.
That's how
probably
long.
are. Yeah.
Probably are. Just yes, all at the same. I made that joke.
It replaced them. Yeah.
On Thanksgiving, we were watching. I was in here kind of doing. I was in the studio kind of futzing around a little bit, and Gigi was watching the Macy's Day Parade, and she's like, "Babe, the Rockettes Center on." I'm like, "They were young when I was a kid. They're gonna be old right now. Like a bunch of old hags out there. Like, ha ha, he he." So I made that same joke, Mr. Hansen. You and I are in sync with our weird brand of humor. We're speeding through again. You want to see a really cool picture, Ben? Of course. Well, I got one for you. There is a NASA mission that lifted off not too long ago after several delays and several calamities. It was called Artemis 1. The purpose of this mission of Artemis is to basically get not only re-land American citizens and astronauts on the moon, but also set up a base on the moon. And the first stage of this mission is to just test the capsule that will carry these people to the moon on a trip around the moon, including further than any planned human spacecraft has ever traveled. It took this really neat picture of the Earth and the moon. And I just thought, that looks like a cool city. That's Earth. But do you not? You're suspect. I want to know, like, what's so wrong about going back to the moon and getting off this planet? We need to get off this planet. We need, this planet is doomed, whether we fuck it up or not. This planet undergoes changes, and we need to get off of it in order to survive as a species. Vigor. It's not vigor. Those are already out there. The moon's already occupied. Oh, are you kidding? All right. You didn't have Courtney on. Or you
Yeah,
I've heard of the flat Earth. I've heard of the vaccine things, but I have not already heard that the moon is occupied. I want to go back and find out.
I've already told y'all I don't even think we ever been to the moon. So
cool enough is that they're planning to land. Actually, hold on. Two things. They did do a flyby on this mission of the original Apollo landing sites, and there's I think that the Chinese rover that's on the moon right now is going to go and take a picture and investigate the site of the Apollo landing. So I don't know.
Okay, I'm at if give me some technology where it's 2022. There's ways to fucking be definitive about it, because there's enough circumstantial shit that at least makes it questionable.
You can see these things from Earth with telescopes.
All right.
I'm just saying, like, it is factually provable.
I just want us to go back so I can see it with my own two eyes now.
I honestly think,
because the 60s, I'm just saying it was very important for us to get there first.
And why? It was a political motivation.
Politically motivated. There was some big time political motivations to get there first by any means necessary. And the way that it played out, because we got there first, like there's just some I know that I'm probably wrong, but I like asking questions. And that's one of those ones where there's some like weird stuff.
There's some questionable stuff for sure. I would think it would be along the lines of what they actually found up there.
And Chris, there's some Stanley Kubrick stuff that's questionable too.
I just think, like, I think we were there. I don't think we know what we found there. And I think that those that know that that's the real secret are happy to push the idea that, like, we didn't go there. That's look at that thing over there and be worried about that thing.
You're saying we got there and we found some shit that we don't really want to tell people about.
Oh, fuck. It just okay. We were chatting in the text about Graham Hancock. What if there was evidence of not only the civilization? We're just sandboxing here, right? What if the prior advanced civilization that was global, as far as we know, at least global, was just more than global, and they had gotten to other places first. I'm not talking about the face on Mars, or I'm just saying, like, there's evidence that there's something else there.
Beat us there. There was something there. We weren't the first to get there. Yeah,
that was human of Earth.
That would be incredible.
What if we found the remains of, like, some weird alien, like, observation post? Where, like, they just got abandoned because their planet got fucked up because their star went supernova or something like that. But millions of years ago, they set up this observation just to watch the wild.
That would be incredible. That would be insane. And that's not, see, that now I can almost buy that more than we never got there.
Yeah, I think
I can buy we got there and what we found was mind blowing. And
like Courtney said, we were told not to return. Like, do not come back. Like,
it's interesting because, you mentioned Graham Hancock, and the reason that we were talking about it privately is that we use The Guardian as a source quite often on this show, and they put out an article basically shitting all over Graham Hancock's Netflix series.
Yes.
And man, I'm sorry if you haven't watched it yet. Everyone needs to watch it because it lays out very practical information that when you put it all together, it seems so obvious that there was a civilization, or at least people, that were trying to warn later generations about shit that happened that they didn't quite understand, but they knew fundamentally changed this planet. And something happened 12,800 years ago or thereabouts. And
that's not in question. The fact that something traumatic that something that a civilization existed prior to that, and it wasn't just hunter gatherer. It wasn't just a bunch of people wearing pelts throwing spears at woolly mammoths.
There's just some things that were built during that time period that are advanced beyond hunter gatherers. That is also not questioned. Is that this is technology? This is knowledge that hunter gatherers did not possess, but someone or something on this planet built enormous structures with highly accurate guidances to the stars and
to the golden rate, to pi, to natural alignments of the magnetic field of the earth. There's a lot to be said for the network of a very just why are there pyramids everywhere? Why is the pyramid everywhere? If our ancient ancestors were all truly isolated, you're going to tell me on every continent in the world, they all miraculously came to the same conclusion that we're going to build these ginormous monuments to whatever we're building them to in this shape.
But that's just it. And not only are they building these pyramids in this certain shape, but they're also then carving stories into these pyramids that are all very similar stories about a people, an event, and it's all very similar events. There was a major event that happened, whether it was a flood, though there's likely a flood because there are multiple different civilizations that tell the same story, that we know those people didn't interact with each other, but they're telling the same story. What is that? How are they telling all the same story from all different corners of this planet? These different cultures carved into stone, the same story, pointing to the same stars during the same time periods, trying to tell later generations about something that we don't
pay attention to this. Yeah. Pay attention to this, and we haven't paid enough attention to figure out what they want us to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. More than likely, because we know they have an understanding of the way the sky works better than we did before we invented telescopes. They knew the tracking of the stars by years and had accurate models that predicted the movements thousands of years ahead and in the past.
And it stands to reason, to me, that makes sense, because what the fuck else did those people have to do with their time? Other than look, you know what I'm saying? Legitimately, other than to look up at the stars and to try to use that fucking ridiculousness. I mean, go outside and look up at our clear night. The shit doesn't make sense that it's there. But you can imagine when there's no such thing as TV or internet or anything, that your time is occupied by looking up above you and going, how does this explain my existence? Because that's what we do as humans. We try to understand why we're here, how we got here, what our purpose is. Those same hunter-gatherers, they had those same brains asking the same questions. So yeah, they sat there for thousands of years watching the movements and tracking them, because what the fuck else did they have to do?
They got pretty good at it. Yeah. But yeah, a couple more things before we get to the lightning round. I do want to mention this, and we actually might come back to this in another show because I think there's a lot to this. But apparently, taking hydrocortisone immediately after a traumatic event may prevent PTSD. I want to point out that this was a study done in a situation where I want to explain it because this is a very, very limited study. And I lost my spot. That I was going to mention how they tested, but basically what it's able to do is help prevent the persistent memories in situations by what cortisone does is it reduces inflammation, right? So they're finding some. We're gonna have to talk about this because this is a much bigger conversation and a therapeutic. That if this works, okay, here it is. An experimental study published. Taking a single dose of hydrocortisone immediately after watching a stressful movie was found to produce intrusive memories related to the movie compared to a placebo group in following days. Voluntary memory was unaffected. The effect was observed in both men and women. I think this is a huge big deal. This is if this is something that works like that. This is an EpiPen for traumatic situations of all kinds, and I think something that I'm going to continue to track. And like I said, I think this one might come back because I think we're brushing it off, but it deserves a bigger share of our time.
It's just another alternative that we need to look into. Like there are some other ways to treat these, particularly PTSD, and I think I've talked about it for a while that psilocybin is one, LSD is another. This is maybe another.
Let's hope so. And the last story before we get to the lightning round, we want to give some props for Snoop for understanding inflation and then increasing his blunt roller's salary from just $50,000.
Man, I would love to make $50,000 a year rolling blunts for Snoop Dogg. Is there a greater job on the planet?
I just want to know, like, okay, that's a good living for doing that, right? But now, are you are there benefits? I'm sure there are benefits.
Surely, like he's not paying for his food.
That's what I'm thinking.
He's not paying for his hotel rooms. Like expenses are also paid.
This is from XXL Mag. Snoop Dogg employs a full-time blunt roller who makes between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. The following day, the California rap legend corrected the post. Inflation, their salary went up, Snoop wrote in a post of the initial post. While it's not abnormal for rappers to have somebody in their camp for the sole purposes of rolling weed, Snoop took it to the next level. In 2019, he revealed during an episode of the Howard Stern Show that his personal weed roller makes 40 to 50 grand and gets all the perks, like an all expense paid trips, travel the world with the dog father.
See, there he goes. Yeah. Yep. He ain't paying for shit. His job is just to make sure that when Snoop needs a fucking blunt, one is rolled and ready.
Which is all the time.
All the time, yeah.
All the time. Which I think is just boss, right? They have to be on call. Like you're just there. You're part of the posse. Like, and you have to have the necessary ingredients there and ready to go, right?
By the way, quote of the story: if you're great at something that I need, I'm hiring you.
That's right. That's his job, his occupation on his resume. It says, "What do you do? I'm a blunt roller." Snoop told Stern, "PRB, professional blunt roller." Well, I mean, if you were ever gonna partake and light one up, now might be the time, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the lightning round.
Shit.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let's see those thunderbolts in the world's most dangerous chat room. That's where the Thunderdome is, and that's where people are gonna participate in the thing that we call democracy here, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new to the show, thank you very much for joining in. If you're old, thank you very much for staying with us. The lightning round is explained as such. 3 stories enter the Thunderdome. 1 is chosen, and that story is chosen by you, the people. So without any further dilly or dally, ladies and gentlemen, headline number 1. Little boy's bracelet doesn't say what he thinks it says, and mom is in stitches.
Okay.
It's actually really good, but I shouldn't say things like that. Headline number 2.
Influencing.
Christie's cancels sale of a T-Rex skeleton after experts revealed it included replica bones.
Oops.
Just fencing fake dinosaur bones. What do you do for a living? I'm a professional blunt roller. What do you do for a living? I sell fake dinosaur bones. Anyway, headline number 3. Man arrested after family Monopoly game turns violent, Tulsa police say.
That's not the first time that's happened.
No,
For sure.
no. So
Monopoly it causes a lot of conflicts. It's maybe the most highly conflicting, what was is that right?
conflict generating game, only because it's a war of attrition, because it takes forever
Exactly.
and you hate everybody after you're playing that while you're playing that game. So ladies and gentlemen, votes are starting to pour in right now, but we're gonna go over the headlines just one more time to make sure everybody has enough time to, if you're on the fence, we can sway you one way or the other. Hey, ladies and gentlemen,
wow, number 3 is running out to a lead.
No, wow, it is. Well, we're going to go over it one more time. And we're waiting for Ryan Hansen's remix.
True.
Headline number 1. Little boy's bracelet doesn't say what he thinks it says, and mom is in stitches. Headline number 2. Christie's cancels sale of T-Rex skeleton after experts revealed it included replica bones. And headline number 3. Man arrested after family Monopoly game turns violent, Tulsa police say. Number 3 is kind of running away with this one here, folks. So if you got another vote, you should speak now. And there he is, right on. Biz, sorry too. Kids said what? Bone collector and Monopoly ends normally is your Ryan Hansen remix. And he goes with headline number 1. Gigi going with headline number 1. We're starting to get a little close here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes for number 3 at this point. 2 votes for number 1.
Got 3 votes for
3 votes for number 1.
Yes. So if you're still out there and have not voted, please get those votes in. Please get those votes in, because we're about to close.
Looks like people want to know about Monopoly.
Well, we're going to give them what they want, because, again, this is a democracy. So, ladies and gentlemen, you decided headline number 3 is the winner. So here we go. Tulsa, Oklahoma, hello. The Tulsa Police Department arrested a man Saturday night after they say a family game of Monopoly turned violent. Officers were called to a shots fired call near Admiral and Mingo. Admiral and Mingo sounds like a really bad hybrid strip club chicken wing joint. Shots fired call near Admiral and Mingo just before 6:30 p.m. The caller identified the suspect as John Armstrong, saying he chased down and fired a shot at her and her father. When police arrived, they immediately took Armstrong into custody. Investigators learned that the family had been drinking alcohol and playing Monopoly when a fight broke out between Armstrong and his stepfather. After knocking over the board game and turning over furniture, they were told to take the fight outside. Armstrong pulled a gun after getting cut in the head. I think they're burying a lead there. How did he get cut in the head? Anyway, Armstrong pulls a gun after getting cut in the head and chased his stepfather and stepsister down the street, pointing the gun at them. He told police he fired 1 shot at the ground. Officers did not find a gun, saying they believed Armstrong hid it in the house before surrendering. Armstrong was arrested and booked into the Tulsa County Jail for assault with a deadly weapon. Now, I think the story missed out at a real chance to name the streets like Baltic and Connecticut and say, whoops, we were getting carried away. Anyway, they were trying to be serious. We're not trying to be serious about that. So that's the story you voted on, but I kind of want to do the first story. We very rarely do these situations where we include 2 stories.
I'll allow, because I want to know what the bracelet says.
Well, thank you, Ben. So we're going to go to the headline. Little boy's bracelet doesn't say what he thinks it says, and mom is in stitches. A little boy's literacy level led to a hilarious misunderstanding with his mom over a word bracelet. TikTok mom at Cheddar Blob went viral when she shared a video of her young son's accidental dirty joke. The kid made an honest mistake when he found a beaded bracelet in his grandma. He found a beaded bracelet in his grandmother's room and put it on. The mom asked,
"Damn it!"
Oh yeah, actually, you know what? It is. Let's just, if we got a video, let's play the video.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get it to go full screen, but it's not really. I don't have TikTok, so I'm kind of.
Oh yeah,
Fucking
neither do
around.
I. It's
All right. Oh,
Does it say comfort? Yeah.
it does not say comfort.
no.
That. What does it say? Comfort? Yeah.
Oh boy.
Her
Oh,
son
boy.
proudly held up his wrist to reveal a bracelet that read "Comfort." But when she asked him what he thought it said, he replied, "Comfort."
Comfort, yes, but you could see if you didn't understand how words work totally.
Comfort. Comfort.
Comfort.
Comfort. Comfort. If you're a 5-year-old boy, or probably girl,
What's the context of the comfort? Like it actually says comfort. So like, and why grandma? Like, what is going on with grandma that she has a comfort bracelet? Like, what is? I can't even imagine.
and that's what Gigi's asking too. And yeah, that's probably a good question for grandma when she's not getting run over by a reindeer.
Right. Hey-o.
Hey, Christmas joke, but comfort. We have to have the comfort in.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Yes. That's I'll look for that. Topic Thunder Shop coming soon.
Topic Thunder Project. The comfort in. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching Topic Thunder. Thanks for coming back after a little bit of a layoff for the Thanksgiving holiday. We hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed your participation. We're grateful as always for the
This show would
conversation.
suck without that.
Yeah, otherwise it's Ben and I just yelling at clouds.
It's just
and that's
me
not
yelling
fun.
at shit. It's no fun for anybody.
We're calling for all kinds of weird stuff and nobody's paying attention. So thanks for paying attention to us and thanks for contributing to the show because again, you guys drive what we do here. We hope we bring you entertainment every Wednesday, which we try to strive here at Topic Thunder. Ben, you've got a couple different podcasts. What's the next one you're doing?
Tomorrow night, Pro Wrestling Multiverse. Don't miss it. 1986.
Catch the
baby.
Multiverse. And it's been Topic Thunder.